Jesus, girl. Is that all the love? Is that all the love I gave you? I mean, I gave you more than that.
Today, I had my first audition in days, months, years, more like years. Just being able to go to this audition was kind of like the best thing that ever happened to me ever. And obviously, I do want to get the audition. Look at all those, like, it's like a gym or something. What is this place? Obviously, if I don't get the in, I'm gonna be sad. But also, I literally would have been sadder if I hadn't auditioned English. It's very difficult. But yeah, I literally would have been sadder if I hadn't auditioned. So, it feels so good to be doing what I think I should be doing. Obviously, I still have the 9 to 5 / 9 to 6, but I can't wait for that not to be true. After being the show, I decided to audition for the Honors Conservatory at this program. And the program is basically made for people who have full-time jobs but still want to pursue acting professionally. Words. It has 3 tracks, but I specifically wanted to be in the musical theater track because I think singing in front of an audience is literally one of the hardest things you can do. And I actually got in, which was crazy. Each day. The choice of musical that year was Blood Brothers, which is about 2 twin brothers who were separated at birth. One grows up with a mom who's low income, and the other grows up with me, Mrs. Lyons, a rather posh woman and posh family. I had a few hang-ups with Mrs. Lyons simply because she and I are so different. She is from the UK, first of all. Well, that's not really what makes her different. She is this posh 1950s woman from the UK, and I am not. And then there's also the fact that a lot of these roles, and Mrs. Lyons in particular, the presumption is usually that she's going to be played by a white woman. So I had all of these hang-ups about her. But everything changed for me once I realized we had more in common than we had more in common than differences, I guess. Like, I realized that Mrs. Lyons, just like a lot of women today, and just like myself, has to live up to these standards we have set in society for women that are overwhelming and overbearing. For example, being the perfect wife, being the perfect homemaker, and eventually, of course, being the perfect mother. You know, there are all these things about her that are really, actually, when you put your finger on it, it's about being the perfect woman in society. And the biggest thing for her was being the perfect mom. And unfortunately for her, she, for whatever reason, couldn't have children. The play doesn't really go into it all that much. I believe it could have been the husband's fault, but Mrs. Lyons doesn't know that. So it's all her fault that they haven't had children yet. And so she is willing to do whatever it takes to get a child. And I'm sure you can see how that can kind of go wrong. But I clung to this idea of what it means to constantly strive for the impossible, and to be in a society where the standards are overbearing, because I can relate to that. Once I realized that, everything sort of clicked, Mrs. Lyons and I were both trying and failing to be the impossible, a perfect woman. Then I realized I was kind of like dehumanizing her in a way. And I needed to get to know her and realize that whoever she is, she's not that far away from who I am. So if I feel far away from who Mrs. Lyons is, then maybe Mrs. Lyons feels far from herself. She wants to fit in, she wants to be the epitome of what a successful 1950s woman is, and that is getting married, check, having children, she can't. She, based off of the work I've done outside of the script, she's miscarried at least once. And if she can't have control over having a, not just a marriage, but a happy and successful marriage wherein her husband gives her as much attention as she wants, the one thing she can't have control over is her hair, her clothes, the way she grooms herself. So right now, I am getting introduced to one of my first outfits. So excited. And Mrs. Lyons, she has a real Burberry coat. I just have to change my woman empowerment socks. I was able to embrace all the style from the 1950s because I knew deep down inside, Mrs. Lyons and I were doing the same things. We were using our outward appearance to make up for the fact that on the inside, we didn't feel worthy at all, because she fell short of what it meant to be the perfect woman, and I fall short of what it means to be the perfect woman, like every single day. But it was beautiful learning her and learning about her character. And there's so many different pieces and intricacies to the way she is, the way she moves, and the way she thinks. And one of my many inspirations for this role was the great Diane Carroll. And so much more to the play, by the way. If you're interested based off of what I said, definitely give it a read or see it. I don't know if it's showing that many places. I don't think it is. But give it a read. It's a fun one. And it just taught me so much about myself. And I guess that is theater magic, that you can learn from the villain of the play, as people like to call her, and learn not to pass judgment, and learn where your commonalities are, and kind of parse through the superficiality of today. Anywho, thank you all so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up, and definitely let me know if you've had a similar experience with a character, with your art, where you start in one place, ended up in another, and you learned more about yourself. Anyway, until next time, break a leg.